Hey guys, so I wanted to go over a listing presentation that I put together. Over years I've been kind of crafting, what are the most important things that need to be discussed in a listing presentation. So know this, prior to going to a listing presentation, there's a lot of prep work that has to happen. So, this is at the listing presentation that I'm about to present to you when you're sitting down with the client. But just know that prior to, you got to make sure that you've obviously done the comps, you've printed out your comps, that you've done. If you're with me here in Florida and you're using Stellar MLS, there's something called the Cloud CMA that I like to bring as well, which is also basically a CMA, but just a lot prettier with great pictures and really helps you present why you believe the value is what it is. And it just makes you look really, really sharp as an agent. If you're with us here at EXP, there's a couple of tools that I want you to leverage prior to going to a listing appointment. One of those is the fact that we can create a dedicated website for the property. What a great thing to have created prior to going to the listing presentation, so you can show them that you're already ready to start marketing their property. You've got a dedicated website for them. If you're also with EXP, we have a system called ZenList. It's basically our internal off-market MLS. No other company is doing this. We have 90,000 agents, meaning we can start marketing to the 90,000 agents in our brokerage before we even put the property on the MLS. So having a ZenList listing prepared prior to going is something really important. And also, if you work with me on my team, or with EXP Express Offers, what a great thing to do to have a cash offer already prepared when you go to the listing presentation. So I say all that to say that, by the time you get here, you should be very well prepared to do this listing presentation. So let me go over this real quick. So number one is, you'll notice on this page that I actually have the address of the property, and I have a tagline: providing the experience you want with the profits you desire. Right. So that's kind of the mission here, right? If you want to be super proactive and super smart and look like an incredible agent and increase your percentages of getting a listing, you might want to actually drive to the property and the area prior to your appointment. So one great thing to do to make you look like a rock star agent is to actually call the person that you're meeting and say, hey, just to let you know, I'm going to be stopping by your house today. I know our appointment's tomorrow, but I'm going to be stopping by today. I want to get a feel for your neighborhood. I want to get a feel for your area. And you might see me out there taking a picture of the front of your house, because I just want to get a sense of it. So just don't think I'm, some weird person stalking you. Okay. So that's kind of a funny, playful way to let them know I am a rock star agent. And if you want to, you can go ahead and take the picture of the exterior of their property and drop it right here. So it's super customized. Like, imagine getting this, even by email. You can send this in advance of your listing appointment and let them look through it. The more information you can give them, the more prep you can give them, the more that you show them that you're on top of your stuff, the better. So once again, you can drop the picture that you actually took of their house, or if you find some old pictures online, you can drop their picture here. Okay. So next, here we're going to talk a little bit about the goals and objectives. So just so you know, when you go to this listing appointment, my thing is always, number one is the house tour. The house tour is kind of like the icebreaker. You don't have to say anything. You just listen. You ask questions about the house. Let them take you around. Tell them what's great about it. Ask questions about important things like the age of the roof, age of the AC, any upgrades that have been made, anything else you should know about the property. Is it on septic and well? And when you're doing all this stuff, you're also getting a little bit of their story, getting to know them a little bit better. And I love that because it takes the pressure off of you. So that's always where you start. Now, you go to, let's say, the dining room table or the kitchen table, and now you're sitting down with them, and you're kind of explaining what's going to happen today. So here's the goals and objectives of our listing presentation today. So the number one, we want to make sure we are aligned with your goal and the strategy to reach that goal. So it's my job as a real estate advisor to listen to what your goals are and give you the best possible strategy to reach that goal. And guess what? Everybody's goal is a little bit different. There's different things you have to take into account depending on the person's situation. Number two is prepare the home and the marketing to get the most attention and competition for your home. So competition is truly what sells a home. So when I'm talking to a client, I'm like, listen, attention and competition is what sells your home. So for the most money and quickly. So for us to do that, we got to make sure that the presentation is right. And I'm going to go in detail on what those things are going to be. The next thing is we're going to sell your home quickly and for the most money while protecting you and creating a smooth closing process. So my job is, once again, my goal is always to get a contract within 10 days. And I think that's pretty much possible with most properties if everything is done right. Okay. That should be your objective. Your objective is, listen, I'm not trying to have this property sit for a month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever the case may be. Now, there are always market factors that can dictate that. But once again, if you know what the market factors are, you can tailor your strategy to still get a contract within 10 days, right? Adjusting the price, adjusting the presentation, all the things I'm about to teach you in a minute. Okay. And I mentioned the word protection here. So it's important that they know that you're going to talk about protecting them through the process. What does that mean? That means making sure that the buyers that submit offers are qualified, making sure that the contract has all the proper things in there, that there's nothing in that contract that puts the seller at risk. Okay. So that's what we're talking about today. I love to discuss. So I want to talk to you a little bit about my team. So it's not just me. What's cool is when you work with me as your real estate advisor, you're going to get access to everybody on my team and my squad, right? So one of them is Lilybeth Brown. You're going to be meeting Lilybeth Brown. And if you happen to be an agent who's not on my team who sees this, and it's whoever your transaction coordinator is. Maybe you don't have one, no problem. Put somebody else on your team in there, right? It could be your lender, it could be somebody, but let them know that, you've got the whole squad. Like, we're going to take care of this from beginning to the end. Okay. I have my title company there, Celebration Title Group. Let them know that these are the people. So the transaction coordinator is going to make sure that we stay on time with all the dates, that we get all the proper paperwork. You might hear from my transaction coordinator. You'll probably be linked on an email with my transaction coordinator. So I just want you to know who she is and that she's on my team, and she's there to make sure this is a smooth closing process. We've got a Celebration Title Group here, who is a title company. The title company is going to be handling all the paperwork, doing all the final numbers. This is where you're going to sign, to receive your money at the end of this thing. And they're going to make sure there's clear title, and they're going to do a bunch of different things throughout the process. So in Central Florida, where we're at, the seller typically chooses who the title company is. This is my trusted partner. Unless they have one of their own, I suggest we use my trusted partner that we built a relationship with. And then finally, and if you're on Davos team, then you can have me on there if you'd like, or another team member, right? So let them know that, I'm there as a guide through this process as well. 22 years of real estate experience. So anything that comes up throughout the process, they know that they have another expert looking over this deal. Okay. Um, this is where you put your bio, of course. So this is just my bio here. So you're going to drop your picture in there, put your name in there. Okay. And you don't have to read them your bio, just this tells them a little bit about me. That's why I like to send this before the listing appointment if they want to kind of read through it. But I might go over some of the highlights. So there's a little bit about me. I won't bore you with my entire story, but I'm originally from Puerto Rico. I grew up here in Central Florida. I've been here for 39 years. I've been in the real estate industry for 22 years. Started off as a loan officer, and got my experience there, and so on and so forth. You might not have a 22-year experience, but you do have a story, right? So be prepared to tell a little bit about who you are, your story, where you're from, and what makes you a great agent, right? What makes you different? You might have come from another industry that gives you a skill that is actually very valuable in this game. So even if you don't have a ton of experience to draw on, you can still tell a great story. Okay. So today's overview, here's what's going to happen today at the listing appointment, so you know what's coming, right? So number one is I'm going to get to know you a little bit better and learn about you. So I'm a big believer that getting to know a person helps, and not only in the relationship and in the trust, but also getting to know what's really important to you as a person, because that will absolutely factor into our strategy. Number two is we're going to go through the four most important things that will sell your home for the most money and quickly. Okay, so we're going to go through that. We're going to go through the timeline and expectations of the process. So I'm going to make sure that you understand what's coming, that we set the expectations. So none of this stuff is going to be a surprise. Sometimes deals, there's a lot of moving pieces and there's going to be stuff, but a lot of this stuff is not going to be weird because we're going to anticipate it and we're going to know that it's coming. And then we're going to explain the listing agreement and talk about commission and the marketing budget. Okay. So let's get started. So here's the most important things that will sell your home. Number one, and we'll go through these in detail in a second, and I will let you know, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, what needs to be done in order to make sure we are prepared when we put that property on the market, that this is our best first impression. And one of those things is going to be the presentation. What does that mean? It means the look and the feel of your home, the smell of your home, everything that has to do with presentation. And in addition to that, I also kind of talk about MLS presentation. How are we presenting this property online? Which we'll talk about more when I go into the section about me as an agent. Okay. The second thing we're gonna talk about, and the one of the most, it's the one thing you just can't get wrong on when it comes to selling your home, right? So all of these things are massively important. I think if you get all four of these right, you're going to sell your home for the most money and quickly. But pricing is that one that if you screw up, it's kind of just, now you're playing defense the whole time, right? You're losing leverage. So we're going to make sure we talk about, what the right pricing is for a home depending on your situation. And then we're going to talk about access. What does that mean? Access means, how are we letting people see your home, and when are we letting them see it? The one thing that I always want to discuss with you, Mr. Mrs. Seller, is that we do not want to put any barriers that we can for people seeing your home. We want to make it easy and comfortable for people to see the home when they need to see it, because once again, attention and competition is what sells a home. And I want to make sure that people get access, and we'll talk about that in a second. And then finally, we're going to talk about me as an agent, what makes me a little bit different, why you might want to use me as your real estate advisor. Okay. And just to let three things will happen today. Okay. Either one, you're going to choose to work with me, which I hope you do. Number two is you're going to choose not to work with me. And number three, I'm going to choose not to actually take the listing because we might not agree on strategy. And I want to let you know that all three of these things are okay. Okay. I'm here to educate. I'm here to present the plan. But at the end of the day, you're the decision maker. Okay. And I have a decision making power too, because I want to make sure that, we follow my expert strategy. And if we can't align on that, that's okay. So I just want you to know that's what's going to happen here today. So number one is we're going to talk about the presentation portion. So this is where we talk about first impressions. So here are usually the most important things that we're going to talk about when it comes to presentation. Number one is just decluttering the home. Matter of fact, if I can have the seller move out, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, if you actually have the opportunity to move out first, that's how I would like to get the home vacant, get all your stuff out, let's clean it up, and let's just make this thing look ready for somebody coming in new. But if we can't do that, we're gonna talk about putting family pictures away. We're going to talk about putting stuff in boxes and putting it in the garage. We're going to talk about, getting rid of some of the extra furniture that might be actually cluttering the space so that people can't really visualize the space. Or, you know, um, I'll give you an example. Sometimes people have, a bunch of rugs everywhere, but they have beautiful, hardwood flooring. We might want to pick those rugs up and let the people see the floors, because that's what's going to be exciting for them, that they see. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about visible fixes. So what I mean by that, meaning things that you can see that immediately you're like, "Ooh, what's that?" Right? Give you an example. If I pull up to a house and there's an oil stain in the driveway, immediately a buyer is going to be like, "Ugh." And that's the feeling they're going to have walking into the home. I do not want that. So small visible fixes. I will tell you, I'm not going to have you do massive repairs and spend a lot of money on anything, especially if I don't think you're going to get the money back when you sell it, right? So I'm not talking about, massive remodels. I'm just saying, hey, I know you like that purple wall, but most people don't like purple walls. So let's just paint that back to a neutral color. Things like that. Or, hey, there's that little bit of wood rot right there on your door frame right when you walk in. It's so visible. It looks like it's just wood rot, but somebody's going to be like, oh my God, is that termites, right? We're going to make sure those things get fixed. And then finally, we're going to clean and freshen the property. So want to make sure that this property is clean, and also definitely got to cut the grass, right? So especially when we start the listing process, we want to make sure that the grass is cut. So maybe you've been kind of you kind of let it go 3-4 weeks, let it grow out, and then cut it. Now is the time to say, let's cut it every week, or let's cut it every 2 weeks, and make sure that it's clean, especially for the open houses, especially for the showings. Okay, but we're going to make sure that it's clean and it's fresh, and the first impression is going to be fantastic. Number two is we're going to talk about the pricing. Okay, so I told you there's 4 things that sell a home: presentation, pricing, access, and me, right? And this is the pricing part. So I like to call this power pricing, meaning we're going to price it at the price that gets us the most attention on the property and gets you the most for the property. What does that mean? The number one killer of deals and the number one loser of money for a seller is overpricing. I cannot stress this enough. Why is that? Because when you overprice a property, you drastically lower who sees the property, right? So if I'm looking at a neighborhood and all the houses are 300 and for some reason yours is at 350, number one, if my search is up to 300, which let's say buyers like I can afford 300,000, so I'm searching for properties in the $300,000 range, right? And if I go do that search, your property is not even going to pop up on the search. And it's not because it shouldn't be in the search, it's because it was mispriced, right? So you're going to lower the attention. The other reason is that, a lot of, most buyers are going to be brought by an agent, and the agent's going to look at it and say, wow, that property's overpriced. And that could be the reason they don't come see it at all. Even though they see it, they're like, either the agent's crazy or the seller's crazy, one of the two. But we don't want to mess with it. There's 3 other houses here that are properly priced. We're going to go see those. So pricing this right is important. And the one thing that most sellers are scared of is, well, what if we price it too low? That my fear is way on the overpricing side than it is on the underpricing. Why? You shouldn't fear underpricing because number one is we're not going to drastically underprice the property. But I will tell you that if myself and the seller are within like 5 grand of what we think the price should be, I'm going to want to take the lower. Why is that? Because it's going to increase attention and competition. I have way higher chance of getting more attention and driving the price up to the price that we want versus overpricing it, not getting any attention, and now the property sits on the market. And that's the last thing you want, is your property to sit on the market for a long time. Why? Because the first thing that an agent's going to look at is how long has the property been on the market? And that is their first leverage point in negotiations because they think that you might be starting to get desperate. Why haven't you gotten an offer? Why is your property on the market for 60 days? And you're not even going to get what you deserve on that offer. That's why pricing it right from the beginning is so important. Number two, we're going to do something called the Go Live system. So open houses, they're old school, but man, do they still work, right? And one of the things that we do specifically here on Davos Team and with the Alliance is something called the Go Live system. We like to list the property publicly on the MLS on a Thursday and drive all first showings to the first open house on the Saturday. We do that because we want to create this kind of frenzy and this buzz and this excitement. There's nothing that will get you more contracts than a bunch of people looking at other people in an open house and being like, oh my gosh, if I don't put a contract in today, somebody else is going to get it. So we do something called the Go Live system. We make sure we get massive attention, especially on that first open house, and we will continue doing open houses along the way. Hopefully, if this plan goes as structured, you won't have to do that many because sure enough, we're going to get a contract pretty quickly. The next thing is multiple offers. Okay. So the best leverage you can get, and this is why you have to price things right, is having multiple offers. Once me as a real estate advisor gets one offer, I've already put you, the seller, in the best negotiating position because every other person that calls is going to ask me every other buyer's agent that calls me is going to ask me one question. Hey, do you have a contract on this property yet? Right. And when I can say that I do, they're going to go back to their buyer and have to put in a great offer in order to win, right? And there's negotiation strategies that go along with that, but I can tell you that having a written offer and multiple offers is the best leverage plan, which is why we got to price this thing right. We got to do that, okay? Next, they won't buy what they can't see. This goes back to access. So once again, we got to let people see the property when they want to see the property, okay? And so the best case scenario is seller moves out of the property. I have the property vacant. I put it on a lockbox, and it's the cleanest, easiest way to make sure people can see it anytime, right? As a real estate advisor, you should have an electronic lockbox. You can do this with combination lockboxes, but regardless, having a lockbox on the door, right, allows people to come in, licensed agents to come take a look at this property. Okay, so that's what we want to do in the best case scenario. So the next best thing, if a seller is going to be still living in the house while we're selling it, right? So it's owner occupied and they're going to be there, is to set up a system where a potential buyer can give us just 1 to 2 hours warning that they want to go see the property. And then I would alert the seller and let them know. So for instance, on the MLS, it would say, text me first, to let me know when you're going to be showing the property, give me at least an hour or two notice so that I can alert the seller. And then you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I would request that you leave the home during that time, right? That you leave the home and let those people see it. Because access also means letting them feel comfortable seeing the house. When a seller is inside the house while the showing is going, it's a really weird situation, right? Like, people want to talk about the house, people want to discuss it with their agent, and it's really hard to do that when the owner of the property is in there. So that's what I would want to do. And if in a situation where you're maybe selling an investment property and there's a tenant in there, well, that gets a little bit tougher, but you're going to want to build a great relationship. We're going to build a great relationship with the tenant and set up times for us to be able to show this property. Ideally, same thing, be able to show it whenever we want with some warning. Okay. Once again, vacant home is what we'd love to have. So if the sellers has the opportunity to move to their next home first and get out and clean it out, that's when I would like to get that listing, right? And then once again, we talked about being flexible with the showing times. Okay. Making your home my home, right? So when I, as a real estate advisor, take a listing, essentially your home becomes my home, right? It's not your home, it's my property to sell, in a sense. That's what my partner Gil says. It's not your home anymore, it's my property to sell, right? So there's a level of this that I take the responsibility of this home, and one of the things I'm going to do is make sure I'm protecting you. So I want to make sure that not only that buyers are actually qualified when they come in, making sure that they actually have a pre-qualification and proof of funds, whatever they need to purchase the property, but that I'm also speaking to their agent, or if they don't have one, making sure it's speaking to them and knowing that this is a very, very solid buyer. Also protecting you on the contract. So there's several things in a contract that can be risky for a seller if you don't know what to look for. And that's what me as a real estate advisor will be doing. Number two is the marketing strategy. So we talked a little bit about the the Go Live system and the open house, but number one is, presenting the property properly on the MLS. All realtors have access to the MLS, or most realtors do, but not everybody knows how to use it, right? They just kind of slap stuff on there. I'm sure you've seen pictures on the MLS and you'd be like, ugh, like every time I see one, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe an agent let that picture up on the on the on the web, right? Like, why would you put that out to the public? Why? Because something as simple as a bad picture will actually keep somebody from coming to see your property. So we do things like professional photography and different things like that, if needed, but making sure that the pictures are right, the descriptions are right on the MLS, that there's certain things on the MLS that, the access portion, that we're doing that properly on the MLS. And these are things that you might think are minor, but they make a huge difference. And then marketing campaign. Once again, I have access to off-market MLS. I'll be doing pre-marketing prior to even listing it. I've got your website set up. We're going to be marketing that on the website. We're going to be doing social media, marketing and ads, and then we're doing open houses and more. So like, we're going to do all of those things, and this property is going to be seen by all the right people. But the main thing, as I mentioned, is the four things that sell a house, right? And we're going to make sure we get the price right, the presentation right, and all that good stuff. And then finally, negotiations. My job is to help put you in a position to get as much leverage. At the end of the day, you're going to get the best offer when you've got the best leverage. How do we do that? Well, we present the property right, we price it right, we get some multiple offers, we make sure we let people see it when they need to. And when we get those multiple offers, we're going to be in negotiations, and there are multiple places where we might have to negotiate, not just on the initial price and the terms of the offer, but there could be negotiations that happen after their inspection period and things like that. So all that will be discussed. Okay. And now let's go through the timeline very quickly. So I like to make sure that clients are prepared and understand what's coming. So nothing is too scary, right? Because sometimes things aren't scary. It's just you don't know that this is a normal thing. So number one is we're going to prepare the home, right? Everything that I've talked to you about, today, which I'm going to go through a list of all the things that we're going to need to do, from cutting the grass, some decluttering, some things that I noticed. We're going to do that. All right. We're going to get all that done, cleaned up, property looking perfect before we do photographs. So we got to have the property ready before we even take the pictures. once we take the pictures, once again, it could be me taking the pictures, or we might actually, I'll invest in a professional photographer if I believe that that's what we need to do, right? Coming soon campaign, we're going to do that. We're going to market your property prior to officially listing it. So I'm going to start building buzz, not only in my local office with 250 agents, but I'm going to be marketing to the 90,000 agents in our company through something called Zenlist, which is our internal off-market MLS, which no other company has. Okay, so we're going to start building buzz for your property before we start. The next thing we're going to be doing is obviously dropping on MLS and digital distribution. So I'm not only going to be putting it on the MLS, it'll be on 200 other websites, including the ones you've heard of, Zillow, Realtor, Trulia, and 100 or so more that all market your property. So once that goes online, it's going to be visible by the world, right? But we're going to make sure we have that first great impression when people see it. Then we're going to set up for that first open house that we spoke about, where we drop it on the Thursday, and then we're going to do the open house on that first Saturday and draw massive attention to the property. After that, we're going to continue the open house process, hopefully not having to do those more than a few weeks, because once again, our goal is to get you a contract quickly and for the most money. But if we that'll only happen if we follow the strategy and the plan that I'm proposing here. Okay. We're going to get a contract. So once we get offers, we're going to be reviewing those offers, making sure you're protected in those offers, and also analyzing them, because there could be 5 offers, right? And we're going to analyze those offers based on how strong they are. And I can tell you that my philosophy is that I look at a few things when I look. It's not just how much they offered, right? Because you could have 2 offers and they might not be that far apart on price. But I also look at the motivation of the buyer. Is this buyer really love your home? Do they have a family? Do they really want to get in this home? Or maybe they're just kind of a wishy-washy investor who's like, I might buy it, I might not buy it, right? That matters, because somebody who's not truly committed to buy it will walk away from the deal during inspection period or otherwise. So we don't want that to happen. I also look at the quality of the buyer's agent who's working with that buyer, because they also are a big part of making sure that this process actually goes through, which is actually why we offer buyers commissions, right? Buyer agent commissions. This has been, I know this has been discussed a lot through the National Association of Realtors lawsuit, but in the end of the day, one of your best marketing strategies is a buyer's agent representing a buyer. And we do that by offering them commissions. And that is probably one of the strongest marketing budgets that you'll ever spend on selling your home, which I will always recommend that. You are not saving money by limiting the number one source of your potential buyer, which is a buyer's agent, right? Because I could market it all day long, but if your number one source is going to be a buyer's agent and they're not getting paid, they're not bringing that buyer. Makes sense, right? Negotiations, going back and forth with buyer and buyer's agents to bring the best offer. So there's going to be negotiations. So obviously there's going to be negotiations at the beginning when they submit the offer, but there could be some during inspection period. And if they are getting financing, there could be some negotiations. Let's say if the appraisal doesn't come out at the price that it should, or something like that. We hope that never happens. We hope we're right on the money, but just in case, that's another reason why you price properties right, by the way. We don't want to have appraisal problems, right? So that's another thing. Mentioned this inspections and appraisals. So we're going to go through an inspection period during this. So the buyer, most likely, unless it's a very rare occurrence, but almost every buyer will have a period of time when they can send an inspector in to look at that property, because I just want to make sure that there's nothing that we don't know about. There could be things you don't know about it as a seller, right? So they're going to be looking at the major structural things, and there could be a negotiation there. And once again, the appraisal might be a point of negotiation. And then finally, we're going to make sure all the numbers in the paperwork are correct prior to the closing. Once again, that's the title company we spoke about at the beginning, and make sure everything is successful for the closing. So that's kind of the timeline and the expectations of what has to happen. And we've done this over and over again. We know it works. So I'm here to guide you through this process and make it simple. I want to let you know that I believe communication is key. In every relationship, communication is the foundation, right? So I will be communicating with you weekly on what's going on, right? So here's what we're working on. Here's what we're doing. Once the property is listed, I'll be like, hey, we had 3 showings on Tuesday. I've got one offer in, I'm waiting on another offer, or it could be, something like just simple feedback, like, hey, we thought we nailed it with this, but it looks like the buyers are having an issue with the fact that the roof is 20 years old, or whatever the case may be. Either way, you're going to have communication, and we're going to customize the strategy to make sure that we get you what you want. Here's some of the testimonials from my clients, some things that people have said about me, how I work, things like that. I won't go through them. I'll leave this with you so that you can read through it. And finally, here's my contact information. Once again, 24/7. You can text me 24/7. If you call me and I'm with family or whatever the case may be, I most likely will text you back and set up a time to talk with you. But I am available to you, and I want to make sure that you know that. So that is the basics for this presentation. I hope this helps. Watch this over and over again. I definitely explain a lot of my personal strategies to make sure that somebody signs a contract, and I genuinely believe that this is the best strategy. And at the end of the day, I am willing to walk away from a deal if a seller does not agree to the strategy, which is okay. I rather you focus on the people that see the value, understand the plan. Do not let clients run the deal. I want you guys to run the deal. Hope this helps, guys. Talk to you soon.